Welcome to the In-Depth Genealogist Chit Chat Live for the week of April 30th, 2017. Hi, everyone. I'm Valerie Eichler Lair, your host for the Chit Chat Live. Joining me this week are Terry O'Connell. She's the executive director of the In-Depth Genealogist. Hi, Terry.
Hey, Val. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Good. Then we have Sherry Hudson Passy. She is the Carolina Girl genealogy blogger, and she's also a writer for the Going In-Depth magazine. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Val. Hi, everybody.
Good to see you. I know you're ready to chat.
You know it.
And then we have Mary Kircherati with mkrgenealogy.com. Hi, Mary. Welcome.
Hi, Val. Nice to be here.
Good to see you. I love those pictures that you have behind you of your ancestors.
Thank you. I do too.
Those are so cool. And then we have Melissa Barker. She's the archivist at the Houston County, Tennessee Archives. Hi, Melissa.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here tonight.
Good to have you. This session of Chit Chat Live, we're going to give our insights and our opinions about the final episodes of Long Lost Family and Relative Race. And on Long Lost Family, we had two episodes. We had Genealogy on Steroids. They were back to back to back. And so the first one was actually episode 12. This is with a young gal looking for her biological mom, and then the grandmother that was looking for her biological granddaughter. And Sherry, I think you wanted to mention about Grandma.
I did. Grandma D was having issues and felt guilty about the fact that she didn't say anything and encouraged her daughter to give up this baby, this granddaughter that they called Annie. And so she was the impetus for trying to find her. And what I was impressed with is when they did find her, and her name was Abby, which was interesting, but they had named her Annie when she was born, but then her name was Abby, so it was pretty close. But what I liked is that she said, I would like for you to be a part of our family in whichever way you want to be a part of our family, which is so refreshing because so many times on this show we've seen this overkill of, oh, I'm your mom now, I'm your mom, and almost negating the fact that they had a adoptive family that they were attached to and loved, and those were their parents. And so I appreciated the fact that she realized that she could not just insert herself into her granddaughter's life, that it had to be the granddaughter's wishes to how far it went. So I really appreciated that statement from the grandmother. And it was wonderful to see her meet her sisters too. So, and it had been her mother's wish, her mom had died, and it had been her mother's wish to find her. So I liked the way they handled it. It wasn't this overwhelming smother, I'm your mom now.
Right,
we will be family. So I appreciated that comment from her.
Mm-hmm. And because they were younger, I saw some hesitation. They were a little bit hesitant. But then Abby, I keep wanting to call her Annie because that's what they wanted to call her. But Annie said, this doesn't seem real.
Right.
And the other two young gals said the same thing.
Right. And Abby was happy with her adopted family. She says, I have brothers, I have a good relationship, I grew up in a great family. So I don't think, it never came across to me that she had this great need. She was willing to meet them and do all this once they came to find her, but I didn't get the impression from her that she had this big need, that she had gotten to that point in her life where she had the big need to go find them. And I don't know, maybe I was reading her wrong, but that's the way it felt to me.
Yeah, I got that impression as well. Mm-hmm. The part of the show that really touched me, the entire show did, but it was the first part with Cindy. She was looking for her biological mom, and she kind of had it rough, growing up. She never ever really bonded with her adoptive mom. She did with her adoptive father. In fact, they were good friends, and she said that they talk all the time. But when you're listening to this story, and then all of a sudden she says, yeah, and I fell out of the car. and my adoptive mom didn't realize it. And it's like, really? Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? And that she just kept driving. And what was the door doing open in the first place? And that just is like, oh my gosh, it's like she even had a choice to choose Cindy for her adoptive daughter. So when she met her biological mom, and it was so cool for me to see that when it was the DNA match being so close that they had actually contacted her biological father, and he's the one that gave the name of her biological mother. And when you saw the mom, the biological mom, tell her part of the story of what happened and how it came to be, and that she actually took the baby home. So there was some bonding there. And then when they actually met now, I really strongly feel that they're going to have a good bond together because of the way they reacted, the way they acted, because Cindy wants so much to have a mom. And yet again, it brought the reality back to me on how much my mom wanted to find her biological mom so badly and so much, and how she couldn't, and how it's really fortunate that these people can do that. So I think, I don't know about you, Sherry, but I think that there'll be a bond there.
Mm-hmm. I believe so.
Yeah,
I agree with you. Mm-hmm.
Don't you think it's weird though that when after they got the DNA results and they found the match and they called and they talked to the father, they got the mother's information. So we talked to the dad live on TV, but we never met him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now they mentioned, oh, this is great that you got now a biological mom and your biological
Mm-hmm.
father. We don't really know. Maybe he didn't want to go on the show. Maybe.
Well, they did give her the choice. I said, so who do you want to meet first? And she said, my biological mom. And so it could be that maybe he maybe he didn't agree to a meeting, and maybe they just didn't have time to fit it in the show.
Yeah, I mean, she
Or maybe
really
they did, and then
wanted,
ended up being on the editing floor.
Maybe
she
it wasn't
really
a good
wanted
meeting.
a mom.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what
She
it
wanted a
was.
mom.
She
Yeah,
really
'cause she
wanted
was-
a mom.
Yeah, because she loved her adoptive dad. So
The thing
Yeah.
that was interesting was I thought the mom, though, I mean, she said, I signed that paper. I said I wouldn't look for her. And so the mom, felt like she had really made a commitment that this is what I have agreed to do, and didn't break that in, 45 years or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, and if you haven't watched the show yet, go back and go watch it. And the letter that Dee's daughter, she met her granddaughter, but the letter that her daughter wrote to the adoptive parents. Oh my gosh, let's not talk about it because I'll start crying. But it's like, she was reading firsthand of her mom's words. Yep. Okay, let's go on to the other episode 13, which is with Tim and Ron, the brothers that they were getting to meet their family. And Terry, start us off with who they met first.
So Tim and Ron were looking for their twin siblings that they remembered. They had a picture of them about maybe 5 and 7 looking at these twin babies. And it was just kind of sad to see them holding this picture. And you could tell the emotional toll it took on them. Supposedly the story was mom up and left them. She abandoned them, supposedly in the house for 4 days, called a neighbor and said, oh, the kids are alone, whatever, whatever. So they wanted to find the twins. Chris used the California Birth Index, looking up the names that they had given him, and he was able to actually find the twins, both who were still alive. I want to say that they were in Kansas, right, Val?
Yes.
Okay.
Wichita.
Yeah. So they flew Tim and Ron out there to meet their siblings, and it was kind of cool to see a lot of their similarities, even though they grew up so far, like just their mannerisms. They showed a lot of, or they did show quite a few documents in this. Besides using the California Birth Index, they used ship records to, find mom and the sister. This was one episode really that I had tears just running down my face through the whole thing, because it was just so heartbreaking. Even to hear them tell the twins, we had a horrible life. Our father was abusive, and the twins were apologizing to them. We're so sorry you went through that. And they're like, we had a nice life, and we're sorry we had that. It was like they were almost apologizing for having a nice life. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no, that's what we wanted for you.
Especially Betty. Yeah, she kind of put on the mom hat and, took on that guilt.
Yeah, it was, the whole thing was just heart-wrenching. Like, I cry at soap opera weddings, but this one, really, they just silent tears through the whole episode.
And you mentioned about showing more of the documents, the records and so forth, seeing the newspaper article. Mm-hmm. I watched the recording so I could rewind and go back to
I'm shocked.
Part. You're shocked? I didn't go down the rabbit hole totally. Mary did this time, I think.
Well, I expected that from her too.
Yes, I watched it. I stayed up probably till 2 o'clock in the morning, at least, after I watched it, trying to track down the other people that I saw on those documents.
So what did you find?
Well, it was interesting when they showed the passenger manifest with the mom and the younger sister on it, that there was another child with the same surname. And the mom was with her new husband and then had not one, but 2 young daughters with the same surname as Tim and Ron. And so there was another sister. They didn't talk about her at all in the show. So I was able to find her on the California Birth Index. And she had the same mother's maiden name and the same father's name. Obviously, she either they couldn't find her. She did not want to appear. Perhaps she's passed away. We don't know what happened and why. There was no information about that. But yeah, I totally had to track this down. And the filming, they kept saying San Francisco. It was Marin County, and I'm looking at every single shot because I grew up in Marin County, and I'm looking, is that from Sausalito or Tiburon, and looking at that view of the Golden Gate Bridge and trying to figure out which restaurant, on Main Street in Tiburon it was, where that was filmed.
I know, having lived there and grew up or went to high school and went up to the Golden Gate Bridge, I agree. But, it's the same thing. People aren't going to know. They'll know and recognize San Francisco.
Right.
But, yeah.
But it was really interesting. And I've done so much research in that area. So I'm researching the Marin County newspapers and so forth. And, found some interesting things. And that show, I don't know whether the producers know, and I'm sure I'm not the only genealogist that was following up on those documents. I think we all tend to want
that's
more
a good
of
eye.
The story.
Yeah, that's a good eye. I didn't catch the second child on the passenger list. It went kind of fast, and I didn't look.
Yeah, and that's immediately what I said to my husband. Usually doesn't watch it, but he was watching it with me, and he had 2 comments. One of them was like, "They found that record in 45 seconds. Why do you spend all day at this?" Yeah. He knows. He knows. But then, I said there was another sister. There's another sister, and it was interesting that they could have filmed it so as to not show that other line. But when they showed the shot of it, it had that other name on it, which, as I wondered what decision the producers were making when they showed that. But anyway, it's I watched it probably at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and then immediately went to my computer and sucked out about 4 hours of genealogy.
I think next year when these shows come on, we have to have a showdown. Who can find what the fastest?
Oh, I would have won that a few weeks ago, and I said, "Look," and you kept telling me, "Shh, don't say anything." But yeah, we should. We'll do that. We'll put a challenge out to everybody.
Too funny.
Yeah, there was another. Well, even when they showed Lisa looking up the birth record, and I noticed on the screen they did mention about the mother's maiden name, but she brought up a really good, again, a hidden hint to look at the ancestry suggested records off to the side, because that led them to the passenger list. So good teaching moment is not just look at what pops up immediately, but off to the right, look at the suggested records and go through each one of those.
I love the suggested records. Yes. Love them. Sometimes I have to like back up to go back and find, okay, what was in that list?
I know. And sometimes they are hard to find because the order of them keeps changing.
Yes.
You get 10 records and city directory. It's like, well, have I looked at that one? And it's hard to know which one. I've been working with German records.
What I do is the first one that I'm looking at, and then that's the first time the suggested records come up. That's the one that I'll use as my base to look at each one. So I'll keep hitting back until I get to that and then go to the next one. Then when I'll go on, because I've seen them too, where that next one that you look at, there's some more suggested records.
Right.
So do it in an organized fashion, start with the first one and then go down, and then
I do, but once you look at that first one and it gives you another suggested record, then that goes and then when you look at the second one, that one, then they switch places. And so if you look at the second one, you're looking at the first one again. And so you have to go to the third one.
That's why I backtracked to the first screen that brought me those suggested records when I was looking at something else. At least that keeps my self-proclaimed OCD in order.
Let me tell you what I found last week. I'm going to veer off subject just because we're talking about these suggested records. I don't even know why I was in there looking at these families. I found I found another Revolutionary War soldier. He's buried about a half hour away from where my kid goes to school. So next week, we're totally going to the cemetery to find a grave. But also, I found somebody had attached, it is a blog post by Yvette, what's her last name? Yes.
Whiting.
And it was on one of my ancestors. I think he's like a 9th great grandfather. I didn't know I had any Dutch ancestors. So I was just following this line, and she had done a case study on the family for a client. And she blogged about it, and somebody had copied it and pasted it in on their tree. So I of course I read it. And then I posted on Facebook thanking her for writing it up and sharing it with the public, and let her know that somebody had it up there without a link or anything, that they, copyrighted it. But it was such a great find. So
cool.
Did you hear that ding?
Yes.
We heard it.
Move on.
Yeah. I'm not being a drill sergeant. It's the stupid timer. Okay. Yes. Moving on to, I think all of our favorite relative race episodes. There again, genealogy on steroids. We had 2 days, days 9 and 10, and we'll start off with talking about where they started and where they ended up. And I'll go to Terry first.
Well, let's just start with, how sad was it not to have Team Blue there?
Team Black.
Team Black.
I meant Black.
She's so upset.
No.
I just had to put it out there, and it was great to see that they started with them, reiterating what they said at the end of last week. But beyond that, they started the day, at their relatives, and they had to get to Boston. The drive to Boston was not included in any other times. They had to be someplace at 9 a.m. And that was when everything started. And they had to, it was a park in Boston, the other side of where the Freedom Trail starts.
The Boston Public Garden Park.
Thank you. And pretty much they were given their clues, which was to go to where the Freedom Trail starts. They'll find somebody dressed in period costume. They'll give them their clue, blah, blah, blah. When they turned and ran, Team Red went one way, Team Green went the other. Team Blue turned around, jumped over the fenced off grass, ran through the grass, and when Kayla jumped to get out of the grass, she totally face planted. It was really sad to see. I thought for sure they were done. I mean, Dooley was like, that's it, we're done, she's hurt, we can't do it anymore. She'd already had a twisted ankle. Team Red was very gracious. The wife turned around, she was running backwards trying to watch her, like, is she okay? When they interviewed her, she was crying, like, I wanted to help her. I felt so bad. Team Green, not so much. So it was really a fast-paced 2 hours following them. And I enjoyed every minute of it, but it would have been better if Team Black was there.
And had won.
Yes.
Well, you made a comment to me, I think right afterwards, that about the green team being way off, going the opposite direction, like 16 street lights.
I don't know how many it was, but it was they were
supposed to be lamp posts.
Yeah, six lights, they were told.
Mm-hmm.
So they assumed red lights.
Yeah.
Well, but it was an elm tree. I mean, where would an elm tree be but in a park? It just seemed a little like, are you guys thinking?
It did crack me up, like watching, like they're getting further and further and further away. And you're like, yes, Team Blue's they can catch up, they can do it, they can pull it off.
Yeah. So, Mary, I want to hear about Team Blue.
So Terry kind of started with episode 10, but really the night started with episode 9. And so they did have one more batch of relatives to go see. And I just loved it. Team Blue was visiting their relative, and they were trying to connect, on the computer how they are related. And he said, oh yeah, I'm an old hand at this now. I'm going limb to limb on the family tree. And I just love that, just this image of him going limb to limb and thinking he was, the hotshot genealogist. It was very, very
on a phone app, no less.
Yeah.
Kind of like John Stamos, who's an expert in the census records.
Exactly. And I just, once Team Black was gone, I mean, Dooley has just really captured my heart. Mm-hmm. And I really, just the way he was with Kayla, and he was just trying to, figure out how to encourage her. So, he would sometimes say, come on, you got to do this. You got to do this. And then, come on, babe, we can do this. We can do this together. And he'd take her hand and really trying to figure out what the right balance was to push her and to help her. And I really liked that relationship between the two of them and them doing it together.
Yeah, we're going to cross this together. And then when Kayla literally crawled to tap Dan's foot, like, we made it at the very end before they knew what was going on. Mm-hmm.
What was it she said? It can't get any lower than this. I crawled to the finish line. I touched his foot.
But too, they really captured so many things that last day during the whole Boston thing. Because I'm thinking, what are they going to do in Boston? So they really captured a lot.
I get to go to Boston this fall, and I'm so excited to get to see some of those places.
Oh my God, Boston is amazing.
Awesome. Sherry, share some insights and your opinions with us.
I just loved all of the interaction and the learning and the connections with their families this year. I just felt like this year was much more than last year. I felt like each of them were touched, even the ones that started out, green team, at the beginning, just wanting to win that money, they all were touched by what they learned, some more than others, but there was just more focus, I think, on those family relationships this year. And what I really loved was at the end, as they finished their last challenge, they were told who their immigrant ancestors were. And each challenge had something to do with that immigrant ancestor. For instance, the red team had to tie knots. And it took them forever to tie these knots. They just, some of them were really, really hard. But it turned out that they had an ancestor that was a mariner. So, they had to learn to tie knots. And I even tweeted to Alexis, blame this one on your ancestors. That's why you came in second place. Blame it on them, So I loved how they read to them, and at the end, they gave them the story of that immigrant ancestor. And you could tell that they were enthralled with those stories that they were learning. So I really, really appreciated the history and the stories and the people they were able to meet on this season. So can't wait for season 3.
I think this season was definitely more planning effort and research went into it than in season 1.
Exactly.
And I can't wait to see what the next season will hold.
I think they learned as they went along that this has got to be a little bit more, family history involved in this to get the genealogist and to encourage people to watch and want to learn about their families.
One of my tweets, the very first episode was, I like it.
Yeah.
More relatives, less race.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, talking about history, we have Melissa, the archivist here, that has some information to share about historical events.
Well, since I don't watch Long Lost Family or Relative Race because I don't have time, Hoodoo is over, and so that's about all I had time to watch. So I thought that I would share with you something that I actually found because I watched a workshop online. The Tennessee State Library and Archives, they have workshops that they hold there at the facility, but then if you give it a week or two, it'll actually show up on their website and you can watch it yourself. And so I was watching one the other day, and it was on their new Andrew Jackson digital collection that they've added to their website. And what they've done is they've kind of scoured the Tennessee State Library and Archives for different collections that have some information about Andrew Jackson, and they've put them in this one spot. And so if you go to where it is on their website, you can browse the collection. And they have digitized a ton of original documents. But 2 of the items I wanted to share tonight are actually complete books that they've actually digitized. And one of them is the Quartermaster Account Book for William B. Lewis, which has Andrew Jackson in it, but it is for the War of 1812. And so if you have ancestors that was in that were in the Creek War or the War of 1812, this particular resource would be great for you. And the other one is a ration book that's dated February 17th, 1813 to March 24th, 1813. It's also in the same time period during the Creek War, War of 1812, and they've digitized the entire book. And it's just got some absolutely fantastic information that is not, the typical census record, vital records. It is one of those wonderful records that we don't normally think about, so we have to think outside the box. But it's just a fantastic collection. If you get a chance, you ought to go over to the Tennessee State Library and Archives and check it out.
Great. Thank you so much for telling us about that, Melissa. And we'll put the links in the chat box area, the comments area. So that's attached to the chat. Thank you. And now you got to go back and watch these shows.
I know. If I ever have time.
I know. And we're getting close to time, but I'm going to be manager and stop the time clock. Anyway, I want to bring us back to the day 9, because at the end of that day, red actually got first and blue got second, and then green got their second strike. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've not heard of this. All 3 of them then had 2 strikes each. So they all got to go on to the last day instead of having a second team being eliminated. So that was really cool. So when they got to Boston, and yes, I've always had my heart with Team Green because of Colorado Springs, and my heart is in Colorado. And I got to tell you, this is a fluke, because I had already planned what I was going to wear for our Chit Chat Live, and it was not really. It wasn't until Sherry said something in your part, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm wearing green. So anyway, just had to bring that up. But yeah, Team Green, they won. Oh, okay, timer. Give me 2 seconds. I loved how they had to make butter. And I was saying all along, I so am in the same spot with her, because I get really upset when I get lost. And so I could totally relate when she was crying and broke down, every time she got lost. But doing some of their challenges, no way. But my favorite was when they had to make butter and shake the mason jar. And she goes, this is really how they made butter? So I was cracking up at that. And then at the very end, I thought it was so cool, like Sherry said, giving them the research that was done. Each of the teams, got all the research that was done. But Team Green, back to his 10th great grandfather, John from Ireland. So I thought of our Irish roots, and then William Penn, and it's like, oh my gosh, I want to apply for the show. So, but they did win. Red came in second, and blue came in third. Team Green, of course, won the $50,000, and I liked the very end where it was just a quick clip that they had already purchased their first home. And it kind of showed what their house looked like. So when I go to Colorado this summer, I'm gonna look you up, Team Green. And so, but yeah, I agree with what you've all said on this year. Has just been amazing. Last year I couldn't get past the first episode, but this year it really grabs. And yes, there will be a season 3. And we know one of the researchers that is already started working on it. And so we're really excited. I can't wait. So we've definitely run out of time. We're over time a little bit for this week's chat. So I want to thank Terry and Sherry and Mary and Melissa for being with me tonight. We'd love to hear from you. So please drop us a comment below. Drop us a line on Facebook. I'm sorry. Drop us a line below. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to IDG's YouTube channel, or send us a simple email to info@theinDepthGenealogist.com. So we'll see you all next time. Keep going in depth with all of your ancestors. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.